Alright, so doctors involved in my ordeal have began to retire. Yeah, it's real interesting what happened after I brought up my concerns following being misdiagnosed repeatedly by several doctors, nurses, medical practices involved with major hospitals around the Birmingham, Alabama area. This mainly happened 2018, 2019. Some of these doctors have gone on and retired. They made their millions in this medical business, and they apparently tried to move on to greener pastures. Others have apparently sold their companies, sold their medical practices, which have subsequently changed their names. So that's interesting, how a doctor's office, a medical practice, will change their name. Alright, so this is one way that medical practices can evade possible past errors and wrongdoings. But Dr. Lora Pound was affiliated with Affinity Physician Services. This was located at 5890 Valley Road, Suite 200, Birmingham, Alabama, 35235. Also known as T.T. Russ Trinity Medical Clinics at Trussville, 5890 Valley Road, Suite 200, Birmingham, Alabama, 35235. But yeah, I went and saw Dr. Pound in 2018. This was following going to the emergency department at Ascension St. Vincent's East Hospital in Birmingham, Alabama. I had a standard x-ray done there. What was interesting about this x-ray was, oh yeah, and if you're interested in what happened to me, I have over 15 hours of video documentation where I went and got all my records, I scanned them into the computer, I collated these videos, I had my own analysis, my own experience, and you can find out exactly what happened to me at my YouTube channel, My Medical Nightmare. But yeah, I had an x-ray done at this emergency room. They took 10 images of my head and my neck, and when I went and got the records later, only 7 images appeared on the disc I was given. That's interesting, and I believe that these angles that may have shown that I had broken the underside of my skull in the area of the occipital condyle, condylar canal, possibly foramen magnum. This was a serious head trauma injury. I had a radiologist, Dr. Julian Druhan, MD. He's affiliated with Birmingham Radiological Group. And they also have an office at Ascension St. Vincent's East Hospital. So in this scan, I was told by the medical people there in the emergency department, and this is also shown in my records, that I basically had no injury, and I was told I could go home. And I'm sitting there, and it takes a lot for me to go into an emergency department in the first place. But I know that I had a broken bone somewhere in my neck or possibly my skull, and I felt like I was in really bad shape, like I was going to die or pass out. Okay, so they tell me I have a clean bill of health, I can leave, and I protest verbally, and was told to follow up with a primary care physician. So I went to Dr. Lora Pound, who I've seen in the past over the course of about 20 years. And Dr. Pound, she was the one who suggested to me to obtain my medical records in the first place, which I did. I gave her a copy of the x-rays and the typed out reports of the doctors and nurses. And later on I got a record from Dr. Pound, and she concurred with the St. Vincent's findings that there were no injuries present in the photographs. My visit with her was about $150. And I got my records from her later on, and this was close to $20, I believe. Had a hard time getting my records from Dr. Pound. The front desk staff was kind of cagey, didn't want to cooperate with me. And by the way, it's the law that patients can obtain their records from doctors, hospitals, nurses, and medical practice in the United States of America. So 8 months passed after I visited Dr. Lora Pound and had this Ascension St. Vincent's East emergency department visit. And my injury, it did not improve, it got worse. This wound that I later had found, a pebble-sized piece of bone, it broke off the underside of my skull. In this area, it became infected over time because it was misdiagnosed, mistreated, and mismanaged. By early 2019, I had so much pain in this area, I had to go back to the hospital emergency department, which I did. St. Vincent's East had a computer tomography scan of my head and my cervical area, my neck at this time. Was also told by these emergency department doctors and nurses that I had no injury in this area, and I was told I was good to go, I could go home. And I'm sitting there, and I cannot believe what I'm hearing. So I got my records later on. You can see many of them here and on my YouTube channel, My Medical Nightmare. I took a disc with all of these records, and in the CT pictures of my skull, you can clearly see there's a broken bone. And I thought Dr. Pound might want to take a look at this after having said that I had no injuries in the previous x-ray scan. And I dropped off a disc and the typed out reports with her front desk staff there at Affinity Physician Services, T-Trust, Trinity Medical Clinics at Trussville. This would have been April 2019. And I never heard from Dr. Pound again. So what I can say about my experience with Dr. Pound is I had a very serious injury, possibly life-threatening. And, when I had the first visit with her, I told her that I believed that the hospital had misdiagnosed me. And, you can see in her reports what she wrote about our exchange. Yeah, she told me how expensive it was going to be to have this thing investigated. Well, after I had the work done and got some better images of this very serious head trauma-based injury, dropped them off for her examination, and she never contacted me. So my experience is Dr. Pound was not a very good doctor.